Thank you so much for all the support you gave me, guys.
Okay.
Today, I got promoted.
Those who spread goodness radiate happiness to everyone around them. Introducing LOLC Finance Credit Cards. Fuel the goodness in you.
Hi, I'm Chitral Jayatilake, head of nature trails at Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts, and I will be answering living's burning questions today. How would I describe myself? I believe in a single sentence, a man truly in love with the natural world. How did I get into sustainable tourism, and could you tell us a bit about your expeditions as a photographer and author on Sri Lanka's wildlife? Well, the second part happened earlier. I was a photographer since I was 15 years. Also I did few books starting at the age of around 28 onwards. I've done 4 publications and maybe 12 exhibitions. But then we got into nature-based tourism at Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts about 15 years back. And with the conflict ending, with sustainable peace in Sri Lanka, it was very easy to expand on it. But because of the sheer love we had for nature, we had to give something back. So the asset gives us the opportunity to conduct nature-based tourism, and I felt that we have to give back by supporting, understanding and helping conservation of some of the animals we work with. So that's how we got into sustainable tourism. What would be my most memorable experience? Pretty much countless. I would share with you 2, one kind of funny one, and one which will stick with me for as long as I live. The funny one is about 14 years ago, I was training one of my senior naturalists, Tharaka. I remember him fondly because he's no longer with us. He passed away in an accident. We were at Yala one evening, and not much of action that evening. And the late evening, we parked at a particular spot, and we thought we will asked the wildlife ranger for a bit of permission to ease ourselves, and I walked 10 feet away from the car, and I suddenly heard a crack above me and a thud. The crack initially made me think that there were langurs on the tree, and with the thud I looked to my right 10 feet, there was a leopard. So accidentally I walked under a tree to ease myself, almost embarrassingly, and excited a leopard cub who was up the tree, which I didn't see. He jumped out 10 feet from me. In a moment, my instincts brought me back to the jeep, and when I looked back, the leopard has run the opposite way, fortunately. The other one is we took great care to try and bring Blue Planet 2 to film sperm whale sequences for their second largest production, to include Sri Lanka in their film. I personally visited Bristol twice, 2 years to convince them, and they did come in 2015. And the amazing thing was that the work we had done by then, one of our own naturalists, senior naturalist Daya, was featured on Blue Planet 2. And the story gets even better. The work Daya did with sperm whales, swimming with them and understanding their behavior, was narrated to the world by the greatest naturalist in the world, by Sir David Attenborough himself. And when I saw the trailer from BBC to have one of my own boys' work narrated by the great man, that perhaps was something unforgettable. What were some of the major challenges I've encountered in developing Sri Lanka's sustainable wildlife tourism and eco-resorts? Many. Initially, I felt about 12 to 15 years ago, sustainable tourism was a fashionable thing to do. And most of us across the world did it because we just had to have it in the portfolio. But today, if you're not doing it through your heart, and if it isn't a part of the DNA of the organization, you wouldn't be in business. So we had to change the mindsets. There is always a cost. Sustainable tourism is more expensive to conduct, but if you do it well, you attract the better dollar paying tourist to come and enjoy that. So that was a mindset change, and of course we had to build bridges between the private sector and the government sector, because there is a traditional mistrust which is very unfortunate. When we want to do something new, there is a lot of convincing, sometimes a bit of red tape, but we never gave up. We worked with the best interest of the country and with good intentions, and our persistence paid off. Trust was developed, many bridges were built, and after that things made life much easier. What do you hope to achieve for Sri Lanka, and how have you been working towards it? Sri Lanka has been a tourism destination, I think, since 1978-79, even before. But tourism had been launched in the country as an effort to help its economy since the late 70s. I would have been 10, 12 years old then. But I still feel, with all the evolution of the good things that has happened from growing tourism during a conflict which was around 300 to 400,000, all the way up to 2.2 million back in 2018, which is a significant achievement. Now we've gone down for other reasons, but I believe we will conduct enough campaigns and persuasion to bring this back to 2 million, maybe even more. But what I like to see is Sri Lanka known in the world of nature-based tourism as a location, a destination which is worth coming for its wildlife only. It's more like how you would look at Kenya or Botswana or Costa Rica. Because, if you ask 98% of any batch of tourists who are going to Kenya, nobody would say that they're going for shopping or to see its beaches. It's basically the wildlife of Kenya. And that is what we've been trying at Nature Trails, and there are other corporates who are doing it well. So we need to build partnerships. We can't do this alone. Ideally, we need to change our attitudes and raise the game so that we serve the more sophisticated nature interested tourists and make their dreams come true when they travel to Sri Lanka. That's what I want to achieve. Well, my work has attracted international media to this island to film our natural wonders. How does this make me feel? In a very humble way, proud. I remember when I was doing my O-levels and A-levels, to watch, there wasn't cable TV back then. I was watching Anglia Productions on Rupavahini with my late father. And I used to always ask my father, how would one get involved in making professional documentaries? Because it used to intrigue me. And that opportunity came my way back in 2007 when I was doing my initial work at Walker's Tours, when a British company with Austin Stevens, a very eminent herpetologist, wanted to film elephant behavior in Sri Lanka. So we became the ground handling fixers for that way back in 2008. Then we got big breaks in 2010-11 when Ammonite UK wanted to film nocturnal behavior of leopards using infrared and thermal imaging. We filmed for 48 days without using any artificial lights, even converting the Jeep lights into infrared, wearing goggles to watch through it. It made us feel like we are special forces. But between the last 14 years, I've helped make 26 international documentaries. That's a lot, I know. But few of them makes me quite proud. Blue Planet 2 in Sri Lanka with Sir David Attenborough speaking of Trincomalee and how the Indian Ocean helps to conserve the blue whale. We filmed with NHK Japan underwater. We filmed with Plimsoll Productions making of Wild Islands. Just 2 months ago we were filming with Warner Brothers, including Sri Lanka, in another Wild Island series amongst Borneo and Alaska. So this is right up there. I love working with the BBC. I'm presently fixing their shoot in southern Sri Lanka, and this is the 8th time we are working with the Natural History Unit of BBC. And I firmly believe that documentary films really puts the focus on Sri Lanka's natural world on prime time television across the world. If you take something like Blue Planet 2 or Planet Earth, the opening week you will have 8 million Europeans watching it. And you send this to China, you're looking at 75 million Chinese viewers watching it within 2 weeks. and you just can't get that exposure anywhere else. We cannot launch a tourism program and a promotion to capture 15 million people. It'll cost us too much. So this is a great way to get the message out there and get the nature interested tourists to visit Sri Lanka.
How would you solve problems if you were from Mars?
If I was from Mars, that's a tough one. I never thought of it like that. Nobody has explored Mars yet, so it will be a new approach and we will have to deal with it when we get there.
If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be and why?
If I was a tree, it's got to be neem. We say Kohomba in Sinhalese, and as a child, Yala has been my favorite haunt, and Kohomba trees have always intrigued me. It's medicinal, the wind that hits a tree and hits you is almost relieving, so definitely.
What's the color of money?
I don't see any color in money. It's an essential commodity which we've been trained to use to survive in life, but I don't see any color.
If you had to be shipwrecked on a desert island, but all your human needs, such as food and water, were taken care of, what two items would you want to have with you?
My camera and I believe in today's world a non-smart phone, just to call my wife and children and say I'm safe.
Are you a hunter or a gatherer?
I think I'm both. I'm a hunter of perfection in life. Since I was almost 30, for the last 25 years I've tried to achieve perfection in anything I do. Gatherer is when anything good happens, I gather that, be very grateful to that and move on.
If you could compare yourself with any animal, which would it be and why?
Perhaps a dolphin. It's very likable, very friendly to humans, entertaining, and it's even trainable.
What song describes you best?
We Are the World. I love Michael Jackson since I was doing my A-levels, but one song, We Are the World, is such a powerful message for humanity.
If someone wrote a biography about you, what do you think the title should be?
Oh, I never thought of that. One of the small books I've read by John Still when I was a teenager still haunts in my mind. That's Jungle Tide. Biography about me possibly is in search of the jungle tide.
If you were a bicycle, which part would you be?
The wheels, I think. That gets you from point A to B.
Can you tell us a joke?
That's very poor in making jokes. But I'll tell you a story instead of a joke. It was told to me by one of the lecturers in India. They said there was this orphan child brought up by the grandparents only, and then one day the grandparent gave this little girl who was 12 years and was very sadly blind something to treasure, a little pouch. And he said, there are some precious pearls. If I suddenly die, keep it safely, sell it and make a life. And the grandma passed away. There was no money for the child to live, so she got some assistance, went to the pearl dealer in the town and gave the pearls. She's blind, she doesn't know whether these are what kind of pearls. The pearls are black, imagine the precious, priceless value. And the dealer opened it and he says, oh, 6 black pearls, priceless. And the dealer's assistant said, boss, this is a huge chance, just offer something to the girl. She doesn't know what it is, make the money. But the dealer said, I don't have enough money to pay for this. I'm going to open the drawer and give everything I have. And the child said, why would it be? He said, you don't know the value of what you're offering me. And the dealer gave all the money in the drawer and the child gave the pearls. Both parties were happy. When the kid departed, the dealer's friend asked him, you are a fool. You could have made a fortune because she can't see. Then the dealer replied, but I can. That kind of story is sticking in my mind.
If I put you in a sealed room with a phone that can make only one outgoing call, who would you call?
I'll call my mother and say I'm safe, and I will always remember to tell her to call my wife and say the same.
What is the most useless invention of all time?
It's a controversial thing I might be saying, but the smartphone can be the most annoying instrument when used in the wrong hands.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
I'm very careful in my cuisine. I don't eat much weird things. I can remember going to the carnival in Kenya and just having chicken. That was like fish out of water. So if I may reply, honestly can't think of something weird because I generally avoid such things.
Who would win in a fight between Superman and Batman?
I have no admiration for both men. They are myths and something created by the commercial world to intrigue children. So if they fight, we leave it to see who wins.
If animals could talk, which would be the most boring?
I think none will be boring. It will be amazing to find a language where we can communicate. But there will be a million complaints by then because this one species, humans, are dominating the world, has a terrible cost to them.
If you could be a fly on a wall, who would you want to listen to in on?
Perhaps the cabinet of the government. I always wonder what they plan when they carry out these things.
If you had to relocate, where would you like to live and why?
Given a choice, I'll always live in Sri Lanka. My second home is India because I love wild India. But if it is a short holiday, always Kenya.
What's the most useless word?
Sorry when you say it without meaning.
What is the one thing you would change about your daily routine?
Waking up late whenever I sleep in an area where there are no leopards.
What is the one thing you wish could exist but doesn't at the moment?
More trust between people. If you can just find trust among societies, among countries, among world leaders, this whole universe will be a peaceful place. So trust is the key.
What would be the hardest thing to give up?
The passion for photography. I've done it since I was 11. And the day I can't hold the camera, it might not be worth living. So there you have it. These are my answers to the questions and the game. Be sure to check Living's Instagram and Facebook for the latest episode of Living Gets Real.